In our math notebook today, we're going to turn to the table of contents. We're going to write multiplying whole numbers. Dot, 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 page 14. Then you want to turn to page 14. Make sure you put a 14 on it wherever you are keeping up with your numbers, whether it's on the bottom, top, or somewhere in the middle. Find this page and glue it down onto page 14. Make sure that you do not cover up the page number when you glue that down. So before we look at this, I want to look at what you guys did last year. So you're not going to write this in your notebook. I just want you to watch. So 35 times 24. Last year y'all used something called the area model. And you took 35 and you wrote it in expanded form across the top. 30 plus 5. And then you took 24 and you wrote it down the side in expanded form, 24. And then you multiplied the numbers on the side and wrote it inside the box. So 3 times 2 is 6, and there's 2 zeros, so that's 600. 2 times 5 is 10, and there's 1 0, so that's 1. 3 times 4 is 12, and there's 1 0, so there's 1 0. And 5 times 4 is 20. And then you took and you added up the parts. So 600 plus 1 is 700. 120 plus 20 is 140. And then when you added up those two parts, you got 840. So this is the area model. We don't use this anymore in 5th grade. You use the standard algorithm. So that's what we're going to look at today, and I'm going to show you how this standard algorithm relates to this area model, but you are no longer allowed to use this area model. You have to use the standard algorithm. So this is something that I found on the internet a couple of years ago, and the first group of students that I showed it to, they dubbed it the PlayStation method because they said that the triangles and circles and squares look like the PlayStation controller. So now it's called the PlayStation method by anybody who I teach. Now the reason we have triangles, circles, and squares is because the two numbers on the top are always the triangles. Then you multiply this first number in the ones place by all the numbers on top. You multiply this circle by all the triangles. And you write your answers down where these circles are. So let's do that. 4 times 5 is 20. I put down a 0. I carry my 2. And down here it tells me I have to add the carried digits. So 4 times 3 is 12. Plus 2 more is 14. Alright. Now we have to go down to our square or our tens digit. We multiplied our ones digit by everything on top. We got 140. Now we're going to multiply our tens digit by everything on top, and we're going to write it down where the squares are. So we're going to come down here. I'm going to write down my same 140 that I had a second ago. And I'm going to multiply this square by everything on top. I have 2 digits on top. I have to multiply it by both. And I write it down where these squares are. Now you might notice there's a 0 here. This square, this 2, is in the tens place. That is why I have to have a placeholder. I have to have a 0 here. Because this isn't really 2 times 5. It's really 20 times 5. And so when I do that, my answer has to go in the tens place, not in the ones place. So every time you scoot over to your tens place, or every time you scoot over to your square, you're going to put a placeholder. Alright, so now we have 2 times 5 is 10. We put down our 0 and carry our 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 more is 7. I didn't need that square. So now let me show you This right here, when you added 120 plus 20 and got 140, that's the same thing as that right there. And when you added 600 plus 700, that's the same thing as that down there. So you were doing the same thing last year, just in a different format. And now we do it in this format. Now we have to know some of these terms. So these two numbers that you multiply in a multiplication problem are called factors. So I want you to draw an arrow off to the side and write factors. The two numbers you multiply are always called factors. These two pieces here, they're not the entire answer, but they're pieces of the answer. These are called partial products. Partial products. And then if we go down to our last step here, we're going to copy down everything we have from the top. We had 140 here, we had 700 there. The last step says to add your two results. You always add your partial products. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 0 is 4, and 7 plus 1 is 8. So our final answer, which is called the product, is 840. Which is the same thing we got when we did it with the area model, 840. Our partial products are the same, our product is the same, our factors were the same. We just did it in a different format. So you will see a test question that asks you to, what are these called? And you have to label them factors. You will see a question that says, what are these called? And you'll have to label them partial products. And then you'll have to label your final answer as product. Product is the answer you get to a multiplication problem. Partial product is a piece of that answer. It's not the whole entire answer, it's just a piece of that answer. So you will need these groups to work on lesson 6 and 7 that we're going to do in our small group math meeting tomorrow. In your stapled packet of work, you have a page that looks like this and a page that looks like this. This is only if you need it. Okay? You don't have to work it out on these pages. I will not work it out on these pages. I will just work it out on regular notebook paper. But this is just if you need it. When you're multiplying a 2-digit by a 2-digit, you have your triangles, your squares, and your circles. And when you have a 3-digit by a 3-digit, you have triangles still on the top. You still have circle and square, but then you have a heart because you need a third digit, so you needed a third shape. Again, that's only if you need the format of this. If you are confident and you can do it without it, then that's fine. You have one sheet each, they're front and back. If you need more, you can either copy it or you can draw your own on notebook paper. Alright, if y'all have questions, email me.